Government business, notice number 2, standing in the name of Mr Yan, to present the Payroll Tax Amendment Bill 2024, Serial 7.
Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I present a bill titled Payroll Tax Amendment Bill 2024, Serial 7.
The Clerk.
A bill for an act to amend the Payroll Tax Act 2009.
Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I move the bill now be read a second time. Madam Speaker, this bill delivers a number of payroll tax reforms aimed at supporting Northern Territory businesses and workers. The bill amends the Payroll Tax Act to increase the tax-free threshold from the current level of $1.5 million to a new level of $2.5 million from 1 July 2025. This means that businesses that pay wages of up to $2.5 million per annum and employ Territory workers will be exempt from payroll tax from this date. Madam Speaker, the bill also increases the maximum annual deduction from $1.5 million to $2.5 million per annum from 1 July 2025. For context, the annual deduction is an amount subtracted from the taxable wages of a business for the purposes of calculating the payroll tax liability. The deduction ensures that smaller businesses, many of which are locally based, pay a lower effective tax rate than their larger counterparts. Madam Speaker, for businesses paying wages above $2.5 million per annum, the deduction will start at $2.5 million, meaning that the first $2.5 million in wages are exempt and reduced by $1 for every $2 in wages paid over $2.5 million. Those familiar with the payroll tax will note that this is greater than the current reduction rate of $1 for every $4 in wages. Madam Speaker, this is to ensure that the deduction continues to extinguish for businesses with wages of $7.5 million or more. Importantly, the net effect of these changes is that every business that pays wages of between $2.5 million and $7.5 million per annum will receive a payroll tax deduction. Madam Speaker, in total, these measures are expected to provide employers with $12 million per annum in payroll tax savings from 2025-2026. Smaller businesses paying wages below $2.5 million, which includes many local-based businesses, will no longer be required to pay a single cent of payroll tax or lodge monthly returns, saving them thousands of dollars each year. I'm also pleased to note, Madam Speaker, that the changes will result in the Territory having the most generous tax-free threshold and annual deduction in the country, sending a clear message that we are committed to supporting local businesses and attracting new employers to invest in the Territory. Madam Speaker, finally, the bill introduces a new payroll tax exemption for wages paid to apprentices and trainees from 1 July 2025 to encourage businesses to invest in growing Territory talent by offering more apprenticeships and trainee positions. The tax exemption is available for apprenticeships and traineeships regulated by the Territory Government under the Training and Skills Development Act of 2016. In other words, all employers, training programs and training providers must be approved and regulated by the Department of Education and Training to ensure apprentices and trainees are provided with genuine training that leads to nationally recognised certification. In addition to these safeguards, Madam Speaker, the trainee exemption will be limited to new employees defined as persons who, immediately before the traineeship started, had not been employed by the employer for a continuous period of 3 months or more, for full-time employees, or 12 months or more for part-time casual employees. Madam Speaker, in total, the new tax exemption is expected to result in foregone revenue of $5 million per annum based on the current number of apprentices and trainees in the Territory. I note that the payroll tax measures contained in this bill commence on 1 July 2025. This is because payroll tax is calculated and reconciled on a financial year basis. So changes that take effect during a financial year increase the complexity of the required legislation and require the 3,100 registered taxpayers to make mid-year adjustments to their internal accounting systems and processes to factor in a change in calculation methodology. However, as an interim measure, Madam Speaker, I will use my power as Treasurer to waive the payroll tax liability of employers who expect to pay Australian wages of $2.5 million or below during 2024-2025. The waiver period will commence from 1 January 2025 in respect of any payroll tax liability incurred between 1 January 2025 and 30 June 2025. This will effectively bring forward the tax-free threshold increase by 6 months until the bill formally commences, meaning eligible employers can stop paying tax and lodging monthly returns from 1 January 2025. Those employers will submit their 2024-2025 annual return to the Territory Revenue Office at the end of the financial year. If the return verifies that their Australian wages were $2.5 million or below, the waiver applies. If the return shows that Australian wages were above $2.5 million, the unpaid tax will need to be paid. However, any employer that ceased paying tax on reasonable evidence that their wages would not exceed the threshold will not face any penalty, tax or interest. For the avoidance of doubt, Madam Speaker, where 2 or more taxpayers are grouped for payroll tax, only the designated group employer will be eligible to claim the waiver where the total Australian wages paid by all group members is less than $2.5 million. This is consistent with how payroll tax groups are treated for the purpose of claiming the tax-free threshold and annual deduction. Full details of the waiver will be published on the Territory Revenue Office website. I'm pleased to commend this bill to honourable members and table a copy of the explanatory statement.